We've got some interesting numbers to talk about in terms of college football TV ratings, and we've also got another transfer portal update. We're going to dive into all of that here today on ITG.
Caution, this podcast contains bad jokes, optimism, and a healthy disdain for Pat Narduzzi. Watching it may increase your actual knowledge of actual football.
ITG.
All the pieces are in place for us to have a chance to win it all.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
There's Owen Schmitt in the building.
Like a runaway beer truck down the sidelines.
Towards the end, he in there, Jed Drenning.
I'm not much of an athlete.
The thing that's non-negotiable is playing hard and playing tough.
And Wesley, Valen, Uhler. You are in the gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the In the Gun podcast. I'm your host, Schuyler Callihan. Joined with me is the signal caller, Jed Drenning. No Wes or no Big O tonight. They've both got some other obligations that they've got to fill, so we're going to let them off the hook here and kind of get into some interesting stuff here. But before we do, a shout out to all those that make this show possible. First, starting off with JR and the fine folks at Toothman Ford. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. Nobody doing better work with the Mountaineers than JR and his folks there at Toothman. To Rick Lewis and Fortis for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed. Be sure to visit fortis.us.com. Johnston Equipment between Weston and Buchanan on Route 33. And to our final friends of the show, that is the Book Exchange. Be sure to stop in at either of the locations or visit their site online. And Jed, let's start it off here. I think you said you actually got something that you wanted to throw out to me here before we really get underway here with these ratings and whatnot. So I'll toss it over to you.
We have some timely trivia with the Super Bowl coming up, the conference championship games slightly in the rear view Sunday. I saw Kendall Baker from Yahoo Sports ask this question. He brought up a pretty good point he made, and I wanted to ask you. Very interesting. There's a college dimension to this. So here we go. 5 schools have produced a U.S. president and a Super Bowl winning quarterback. 5 schools have. And the reason he asked this question, Drake May of North Carolina, who, oh, by the way, James K. Polk graduated from North Carolina, President Polk. So Drake May, the quarterback for the Patriots, heading into the Super Bowl against the Seahawks. They could be the 6th school to produce both a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a president. 5 schools have done so previously. How many of the 5 schools can you name? 1 or 2 of these are really tricky. None of them are easy. Like I said, you might start from the top by process of elimination and nail 1 or 2, but a couple of them are pretty tricky.
Well, I'll go ahead and say that I already got one because we talked about this off air, and it was Michigan, which is obvious with Tom Brady doing his part.
And Gerald Ford. President Ford played football at the University of Michigan back in the day. Yep.
Yes.
So that's
that was
one
the easy
of the
5.
One.
Man, I'm going to have to guess big time here because I really don't know. This is probably sad that I don't know the colleges of many of these presidents.
Okay.
I was gonna say USC, but I think I remember this conversation we had before, and USC was not one of them, or was it?
You know what's funny about USC? I believe Sam Darnold will be the first USC Trojan quarterback to start in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
imagine that.
Yeah, that's even more crazy.
Imagine that for all the NFL players they have produced,
and
unless I'm mistaken. I don't think a Trojan has ever started a Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
So I think Sam Darnold will be the first with the opportunity not just to win it, but start it. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the case. But you have one of the 5.
How about Cal?
Close. Stanford.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Herbert Hoover graduated from Stanford, and Stanford has produced 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, John Elway and Jim Plunkett of Raiders fame. So that's 2 of the 5. Now think military for one of the others. This guy came into Old Mountaineer Field and carved up West Virginia in the season opener, I believe in 1963, the year that he won the Heisman. Was it 63 or 62 when he came in here and did that? Like 51-7, something like that. Roger Staubach Now,
Ah,
most people will remember Roger Staubach went to Navy, but I don't know how many people remember President Jimmy Carter went to Navy. So Navy has produced both. And then you have, this is pretty recent, very recent, with both the quarterback and the president. Where
oh
Joe
gosh.
Flacco transferred
Oh,
from
Delaware.
Pitt to go?
Oh,
Delaware.
okay. Okay.
Yes. And guess who else graduated from Delaware? President Biden graduated from Delaware. And then finally, you have one left, and it's in the MAC.
Mm, in the
It's in the
MAC.
MAC. Here's the dark horse of the group of five.
How about Miami, Ohio, Big Ben?
Very good. And President Harrison. Very good. So there's your five as Drake May tries to make it six with the UNC Tar Heels and President James K. Polk. So a little bit sidebar trivia. I thought that was a fun question. I figured I'd share
Yeah,
it.
that's definitely interesting. I never really thought about some of those, and yeah, around here, obviously, I'm in Charlotte's backyard, and they're all giddy about Drake May, who went to Myers Park, is a really big high school down here that does a lot of good things with athletics. He actually grew up in Huntersville, which is probably 7 minutes from where I am, so it's kind of cool to see some of these guys come forward and be who they are. So, but
He's
anyways,
trying to he's trying to win a Super Bowl, but I'll tell you what bowl he didn't win was the Duke's Mayo Bowl because
that's
he
right.
didn't play in it. He didn't
Well,
play in
yeah,
it. Remember? Yeah.
he didn't play in it, but he probably also said, I don't know, that Mountaineer defense and all those fans
That's
traveling
right.
up
He
from
opted
Morgantown.
out. He opted out and prepared for the draft, and that was probably a pretty good decision on his part. It's worked out.
Yes.
It's worked out. But anyway,
Yeah.
on we
So
go.
some college football ratings are now coming through as Indiana closed the book on the 2025/26 season, winning the national championship. And they're catching hell from everybody on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen that, Jed, but everybody talking about how there's no fans in the stands for the championship thing. I'm like, look, I get it to some degree, but the weather is pretty bad right now. And I understand, Mountaineer fans are kind of getting on this tune saying if West Virginia would have won a national championship, that Mountaineer field would be packed out. Yeah, but you also got to be smart too. I mean, I get it. There may be probably more fans that showed up in Morgantown if that were to happen, but hey, they at least had somebody in their stadium this past weekend. So hats off to them.
Bloomington from Indianapolis. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It's been a while since I was out that way going from one to the other, but do it in the dome.
Yeah,
Just set
yeah.
up the road, do it in the dome. But yeah, the ratings are in or have been in. We've had an episode air since the national championship, since Indiana knocked off the Canes. And boy, did they bring home some big numbers. ESPN PR reporting 30.1 million viewers, 33.2 million peak viewers. In other words, when they look at the ratings over the arc of the entire broadcast, it peaked at 33.2 million people watching it at once. It was the second most watched CFB playoff title game, the second best cable telecast ever of any kind. That's a bold statement. The most viewed non NFL sports event since the 2016 World Series Game 7. And I'm an old TV guy. Okay, Sky, you know that. So what happens is when I see these types of things, I don't think people entirely understand. They might think they understand, but they really don't how big the NFL is in these circles. So if you can enter the conversation and have the NFL being mentioned in your ratings, like typically when the top 100 things on television come out each year, when the year's over, 80 some of them are NFL games. 80 some, and the other one's like an episode of 60 Minutes, maybe a game of the World Series. Most aren't even sports, but 80
Right.
some are NFL games, sometimes 90 some. So to get up in that stratosphere with Indiana, Miami, that's huge. It's healthy for the sport. People are saying that college football is unpopular at this juncture because of the issues, which we'll get into in the coming episode here. But at the same time, I think a lot of things contribute to this number. It's the third straight year that you didn't have an SEC team in the championship game. I do think there was some SEC fatigue starting to set in, no doubt about it, leading up to that point. This is some much needed relief. Factor in the Fernando Mendoza story. Who doesn't love this kid?
Coach
He's easy to
Sig.
cheer for. He's easy to pull for. His mom has MS. She's in a wheelchair. He's about all the right things. And then Miami, I think there's a touch of nostalgia with the Miami storyline here. It's just been so long since they were last this relevant. And again, they play such a perfect villain. So I think all these things kind of contribute to a juicy story for this CFP national championship game. And that's why you got these through the roof numbers that you got. There's obviously appeal to college football. It's the second most popular sport in the country behind the NFL. And so when positioned properly, I think it kind of bottomed out back when Alabama had that rematch with LSU. No knock on either of those programs. I mean, how can you knock what Nick Saban did at Alabama? But at that time, it was kind of same old, same old. And
Yeah.
Alabama had their way with LSU, shut them out like 22-0 after a 6-3 game in the regular season. And I just don't think most people had much interest in how that game turned out. Look, no matter who wins, it's some SEC powerhouse. Who really cares? So people in large measure kind of checked out and tuned out and didn't really watch it, as opposed to this. Two teams from different conferences about very different things, stark contrast in what they're all about. But yeah, it was a great storyline. It was a great game. It delivered. It really did. It delivered right up to the turnover. In under the 2 minute mark. It was a great game, and it's great for college football.
Yeah, it really was. And hey, maybe next year West Virginia will be the team that comes out of nowhere and gets in that Indiana spot, captures the nation's spotlight, and everybody's all on the Rich Rod. I love this guy. He's hard edge. I love it. And then I don't know, maybe like a Tennessee or somebody who hasn't been good in 88 years comes alive, and you have West Virginia and the Volunteers in a national championship game. That'd be pretty interesting.
Everybody wants to be the Cinderella now that Cinderella survived midnight. They
Yes.
finished the deal 16-0, first 16-0 team in college football. Kurt Cignetti's Indiana Hoosiers since the 1880s, I believe. So now everybody wants to be that new Cinderella. So I do think it's healthy for the spirit of the game in that respect as well. Everybody recognizes in today's era, yes, there are downsides to it, no doubt about it. But at the same time, if you flip your roster appropriately, which every year, just about every team is going to end up doing, trying to flip the roster, if you pick the right spots and call the right shots and bring in the right people and find the right chemistry and the right teamwork, as Indiana did, I mean, in large measure, these were imports.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of holdovers from Kurt Cignetti taking that program over. That's why they averaged 23 years old across the line in their starting lineups. I mean, their starters on defense and offense were almost as old as the Green Bay Packers. But if you call your shots appropriately, magic can happen in this modern era. And it wasn't like Indiana has money, way more money than most people realize. But it's not like they busted the bank putting that roster together. So good on them. Now who's next? Why not West Virginia?
Yeah.
Everybody wants a piece of this, including West Virginia. So great ratings, great TV numbers on the college football side. Now, Sky, let's get into some. Now that the book's been closed on the season at large, I always like to take a look at geek out on a few weird numbers statistically. Now that every team is done playing, and let's start with this: fewest turnovers lost in college football this year. You want to take a guess on what that number was? The fewest turnovers lost by a team?
I don't think anybody made it through with at least five. So I'm going to go six.
UConn threw one interception and lost one fumble. A
Oh
total
my
of two.
gosh.
Two. The last time a team finished with two was the COVID shortened 20 season in the MAC, when the MAC only played 3 games, when Miami
Yeah,
and
we ain't
Ohio
got
finished
that.
with two. That's cheating, right?
Yeah.
Fewest interceptions gained defensively. What do you think's the fewest picks by a
Oh,
defense? It was in the Big 12. It was the Cincinnati Bearcats. How many was it? They
one?
picked off two. Close. Two.
Hey, that's two more than the New York Jets did in the
That's what I was
17
getting ready to
games.
say. It's two more than the New York Jets. Exactly. Okay. The fewest sacks
Fewest
by an
sacks.
FBS team. The fewest sacks in the
Three.
country. It's 10. UCLA. UCLA.
Okay.
Now, this is interesting. Fewest field goals attempted and made. Same team.
Hmm. Would it be Indiana, maybe?
No. think the other way. I know what you're thinking. They never needed to kick field goals. This team didn't have any chances to kick field goals.
Oh,
but
gosh.
put it to you like this. West Virginia was 10 for 12, and they finished 124th in attempts with 12, and they finished 115th in makes with 10. So we were very efficient. We didn't try many, but we were very efficient. ULM, the University of Louisiana Monroe, attempted 7 and made 2.
Oh,
Both
gosh.
Maybe
that's part of the reason they didn't.
That's right. Both the fewest in college football. A few more to round things out before we go to break. The best red zone touchdown percentage defensively. In other words, the lowest touchdown percentage allowed by any defense once teams crossed into the red zone against them. It was Western Kentucky.
Wow.
It was less than 35%, 34.7% to lead the nation. West Virginia was 63rd at 58%. Not bad, but not 35%. 34.7 is wicked good.
That's
the highest offensively red zone touchdown percentage by an offense. We saw this up close and personal, and we got a heavy dose of it.
Texas
Utah
Tech.
led the nation.
Utah.
79.7% of their red zone trips resulted in touchdowns. That is next level, is what that is. And then finally, most penalties. And this is a raw number. Miami had the most, in part because they played the most games, but they weren't a real disciplined team. Last one we'll close with the most sacks allowed. Sacks allowed. West Virginia allowed 31 to tie for 108th. Who allowed the most in the country? Poor Jared Parker, old Mountaineers assistant, head coach at Troy. And, he jettisoned his offensive coordinator, Sean Reagan, our old quarterback coach and tight ends coach here at West Virginia. Good dude, like Sean, but that offense struggled for Troy. They allowed the most sacks in the country. They allowed 59 sacks.
Oh, my gosh. That is
tough to move forward.
Is Goose Crowder still down there?
Time. What's that?
Is Goose still down there?
Yeah, I believe he is. Yeah, matter of fact, I know he is because I saw him play against Jack State.
I don't think he's starting, right? Or is he? I'll have to check
time late in the year, and he was making some magic for him. He was splitting time late in the year. I'm trying to remember what the other kid's name is, but he was still playing significantly for him down the stretch.
If there was a kid that I ever really wanted to just do so well at West Virginia, was Goose Crowder, because just the name just fits perfectly. It's just like something you'd pull out of a movie. I really wish it would have worked for Goose, but
I played college ball with Goose Crowder's high school coach, Chad Eade. Chad Eads coached at Gardendale, took another job since Goose left, but we were together at Sanford for Terry Bowden. Yeah, Chad Eads and I.
Nice. Yeah, and I mean, really the only thing I was going to say before we go to the commercial here is I love the whole Cignetti thing. It's great. I think it does show that anybody can just kind of come out of nowhere and be successful. But the problem is it creates this kind of unfair expectation for new coaches. And we've seen it if you're on WVU Facebook or WVUX or whatever it is, and everybody just believes, well, Cignetti did it. Why can't Rich Rod? Why isn't Rich Rod winning 10, 11 games in year one? And look, I'm not going to go on this huge rant, but I'll just say this. Like, props to Coach Cignetti. He did a great job. But that isn't going to be the case everywhere. That should not be the expectation everywhere, number one. And number two, if you go back and look, I did. His first year there, they played 3 teams that won 7 or more games in 2024. We played 7. West Virginia played 7 teams that won 7 or more games in Rich Rod's first year back.
Kurt famously told his wife when the Indiana job was open, he looked at their schedule, and he said, look at this schedule. You can show up and win 10 games with this schedule. He said, why would I not take this job playing against this schedule?
Yeah.
And surely enough, he followed through, and the proof's in the pudding. But the other part about Indiana, and again, it's nice to have it in your coffers when needed. They have far more from a resource standpoint than people recognize. It's just, by and large, that's only been available and oftentimes wasted on the basketball side over the last several decades. But now it's been activated on the football side, and people are starting to recognize they're coming out of the woodwork, and the big money people I mean, not many schools have produced as many millionaires as Indiana has. I mean, people don't recognize the money that's tied to the University of
Mark
Indiana
Cuban.
or Indiana University. Which is it? I don't know. With IUP
Yeah.
up there, I'm double confused. But so yeah, you have that available at your disposal when you need it. But they haven't been wasteful with what they've done, as we touched on earlier in the portal. They've been very selective, very smart, very shrewd. And at times, when they do need a guy now, they get their guy.
Yeah, they sure do. I mean, their starting center started for Notre Dame in the national championship a year ago. So there you have it. All right, we're going to get to a quick commercial break, and then on the other side, we're going to dive more into some of these transfer portal additions, get some thoughts from Jed, and we'll wrap things up here today on ITG.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
You're listening to Mountaineer Football Talk.
ITG. When the sun's just rising and the work won't wait, you need the equipment that works just as hard as you do. Johnson Equipment delivers power, performance, and reliability day in, day out. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling loads, or planting the future, our tractors are built to take it and then some. Strong, reliable, ready.
Low-rate financing available on select Coyote models.
Johnson Equipment, farming made easy.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
Welcome back to In the Gun. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That's Jed Drenning, and we've got some more transfer portal news to talk about. It's kind of slowed down at this point, and I'd say much of the roster is pretty much in place. You might see a handful of more players added to the roster over the next couple of weeks, and who knows, something could fall through. You might see another addition happen sometime in the spring, because as we mentioned before, just because the transfer portal closed doesn't mean you can't still sign somebody. There may be somebody that they pick up off the street after spring ball sometime in the summer. Who knows? But as far as entries are concerned, that is off the table. So Jed, I'll kick it over to you first. Some names that you're eager about and want to talk about here first before I get into some.
And by the way, in the next episode, we're going to break down some of the particulars nationally with the transfer portal and how crazy some of these numbers actually are at this juncture as they flow along. How many kids gambled on themselves and so far haven't won that gamble. But anyway, some of these kids haven't been formally announced. So things are still going through process until you hear it from the school itself. Disclaimer, of course, nothing's official. We're not breaking news here. So nothing's official until you hear it from the program, from West Virginia football. So this is speculative until that becomes the case, including Cameron Reddick. He's not officially listed on the roster, but he's a guy that has announced. We're going to talk about him. When I look at him out of Stephen F. Austin, played a lot of football for a good Stephen F. Austin team last year. He's another longer guy, 6 foot, buck 85. And what I see, Schuyler, a kid with great coverage skills. You talk about somebody who can drop down over the slot and really cover the route tree. Very fluid hips, breaks on the football, very sticky as a defender. And what I've noticed is a combination of the portal class plus the signing class. I think we're trying to gain length plus versatility at that third level. And the safeties can be second level defenders. And I think we're managing to do that with some of these names that we're bringing in. And Cameron Reddick is another kid that's right there in that group. Again, when you watch his tape, it's impressive. Played 16 games for them last year into the playoffs, and I was very impressed by his. I was very impressed by his ability to drop down and shadow a slot receiver, sometimes a very shifty slot receiver, and not give up much in that respect. So that's what I saw out of him. And then you have an edge defender, Toby Hastrup, out of Oregon. Again, until it's formally announced by the school, nothing's official. But what I see when I look at, obviously what you'd expect, very raw. Grew up in London, England, not playing American football. Moved to Maid Creek High School in Texas, and I ended up playing there. His first year of football was his senior year at Maid Creek, and in his very first game, exploded off the edge for 5 sacks. What you might expect from a guy with his size and track pedigree. This is a long kid with some meat to him, Schuyler. And when you combine that with the kind of burst and explosiveness he has, you're talking about a 10-900 meters, a 21-9 200 meters. So I always regarded the 200 meters as a different kind of speed. It's a speed with staying power. That's the type of speed that's coupled with conditioning, which means he's not just going to bring it in the first quarter, but he's also going to be bringing it in the second half. So he's a kid that's in tremendous shape with that track background. But I'm telling you, his offer sheet is as impressive as you might expect when he was coming out of high school. It's one thing to sign with Oregon. He was also offered by the likes of Florida State and Michigan and Tennessee. Again, terribly raw, which is, I'm confident that's what he encountered at Oregon, showing up playing Big Ten football for the first time with only 1 year of football under your belt. It's difficult to settle in and make some things happen at that early juncture, which is why that really didn't happen for him as a Duck. But the skill set, the ability, it's all there, and it's easy to salivate when you watch him on tape and consider what he might be able to develop into once he works through that raw nature of his.
Yeah, I mean, he's got muscles on muscles. If you haven't seen some of the pictures that he's put up, workouts on his Instagram, I mean, this dude looks like he's in his 4th or 5th year in the NFL. I mean, that's what he looks like. He is in elite shape. And I'm very curious to see how soon he can make an impact and what type of impact he can have. Because I think really, if you look at that front 7, particularly the defensive, line edge positions, I kind of get the feeling that Zach Alley and Rich Rod are almost betting on some of this young talent. Some of that's guys that are coming back, Wilnerson, Telemock, Brandon Caesar, Taylor Brown, so on and so forth. But what I love about this portal strategy is they went out and got some of these guys that were heavily recruited out of high school that maybe didn't get playing time in year 1 or year 2 and maybe aren't high up on the list of some of these other championship contender teams because they want guys that can play right now, where Toby Hastrup might be ready to go this year and make a big impact, but maybe he's somebody that is a big-time guy 2 to 3 years from now. And I love that strategy by him. And you talked about the length at corner. I did the measurements today on one of my stories, and that was the first thing that jumped out to me was the length at corner. We talked about how many times how good Michael Coates and Jason Chambers and those guys were at corner, but just the size got to them. They have now 3 corners at 6'3" or taller. Shams Jean out of Georgia State, he was listed at 6'4" at Georgia State. He's 6'3" at West Virginia, so we'll just say 6'3.5", give him the benefit of the doubt. Damon Allen, a junior college transfer. Rashawn Reynolds, another guy from JUCO, both 6'3". So you're starting to see that length come through, and I think it's playable guys too. It's not just guys that you're just wanting to beef up your overall measurements. These guys are going to play.
Let me buck that trend. Let's continue through here in the corner room with a kid who isn't long. He's very compact and stout and twitchy, and that's Jair Rollison, 5'9", a $182 out of Kent State, a York, PA kid. So he's working his way home, right? But last year at Kent, he was targeted 60 times. A lot of what's going to happen, Schuyler, is you have a wide corner, you have a boundary corner. That boundary corner is often targeted more because they're easier access throws, and the real estate you have to cover to make those throws isn't as vast as that wide side corner. But this is a kid who can bounce around and probably play either, but he did spend the lion's share of his reps at a wide corner spot. So he wasn't down over the slot. He was playing in space against some of the best that the other offense, the opposition, had to offer. He only allowed 58% of those 60 targets to be completed. He's very active with the football in flight, very busy hands, very strong hands. He led the MAC with 14 forced incompletions. That's a metric you look to see a guy who gets busy when the ball's in the air. And he's a different type of football player with the ball in the air. Played almost 700 snaps last year. So played a ton of football. Again, 86% of that was out wide at the corner spot. But I think what I might like most about this kid, he's a great tackler. Forget his size, because he does. He's a pit bull, no doubt about it. He led all MAC cornerbacks with 49 total tackles. But here's the bigger thing. He's efficient in space. Among FBS cornerbacks who played 500 or more snaps, he had the 5th lowest missed tackle percentage in the country. 3.4% missed tackle percentage is absolutely elite. He missed, count them, Schuyler, 2 tackles in those circumstances last year. Only 4 corners finished ahead of him in college football, and one of the 4 who finished in front of him was D'Angelo Pons of Indiana. So he was a very
pretty good
bright spot on an otherwise horrible Kent defense.
Yeah.
And I think he's another guy who can settle in right away and find a role. He just has a certain tenacity to him, an edge on his shoulder. He's been told his whole life he's not big enough. He doesn't have the measurables. He's not this. He's not that. He lands in the MAC and just becomes a dominant fixture for, like I said, a struggling, bad Kent State team. He was a bright spot. And I think that's a guy who can find a role as well. He hasn't played over the slot, and I'm not sure we'll ask him to play over the slot, but anybody that can tackle like that in space and cover like that and play the ball in flight can find a role.
Yeah, I mean, if you have so few less missed tackles that you can remember them all, that's a pretty damn good thing to know. Mm-hmm. I mean, when that's the first thing I look at too, when some of these transfers were coming in or they're being offered or setting up visits with West Virginia, I wasn't even looking at the amount of tackles because I think everyone just sees, oh, he had 85 tackles this year, but yeah, but how many did he miss? Could he have had 115? Could he have had 120? Like, what's that number? So if you have that few missed tackle and your missed tackle percentage is that low, yeah, that's pretty elite stuff. That stuff will translate to the Big 12.
Especially on the back end. We've talked about this on here before. We did a lot of things against the run game from our secondary, the Fred Perrys of the world on down the line. Now, we had some deficiencies against the pass. We had some MAs and some issues at times, but against the run, we were a pretty physical downhill secondary. But the issue was we weren't always efficient in going about our business. As a collective, our secondary missed 80-plus tackles last year, and you have to mitigate that number and cut into that number if you want to be playing meaningful football later in the year, which is our goal, and it's going to take kids like Jair Rollison and some of those others that you mentioned earlier to fill those roles.
Yeah, talked about the defensive line here a little bit ago and how they're going to rely on a lot of youth, but there's one guy that's going to potentially be in the fold here sooner than later. Again, not an official guy just yet, but that's Zeke Durham-Campbell, Coastal Carolina transfer, had 42 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks last year at Coastal, 6'5", 243. that can play. And it's somebody that Rich Rod knows fairly well, having been from that Sun Belt Conference.
Look at the overall pressures for all these edge players we're bringing in. Even if their sack totals don't hit double digits and light you up, look at the times they're impacting a play when they don't get home on the sack, when they hurry the quarterback, when they hit the quarterback. You are affecting a play. Trust me when I say that as a former quarterback. And that's the case with all of these edge players that we're bringing in, including him. Yes, he had those 5.5 sacks at Coastal, but also he had a far greater number of times that he got close to the quarterback, impacted the play, and incompletion is almost just as good. And sometimes you're leading to that. Sometimes you're leading to a poor decision that might lead to a turnover. Sometimes he puts the football in harm's way because he senses you coming behind him. I mean, that's just the nature of those types of guys. And once again, we've talked about length. Hit that against guy, 6'5". So we're bringing length in on the edge. We have length on the back end. And that's something we didn't have, a combination of length and speed. And that's another guy that can step in and get some things done for us.
Yeah, I misspoke there that Rich Rod knew him from the Sun Belt. Obviously, Coastal's in the Sun Belt. He played there. But before he went to Coastal, he played at Louisiana Tech, where he was under Jeremiah Johnson, who was kind of rumored as maybe a candidate last year for West Virginia on the defensive side. So they know what they're getting in this kid. So moving on, where do you want to go next? You want to go the big guy, the next beer truck potentially?
This beer truck, yeah, we got to get Owen on here at some point and just break this kid down and flesh him out because we know Owen's been watching tape on him, and that's Caden Luke. He's a very compact beer truck. I mean, people forget Owen was 6'3", right? Owen's
this is a mini fridge.
Caden Luke's carrying that weight, but in a 5'11" frame. So he's much more compact, really stout kid. The numbers we look at and the tape that you look at Arizona came 2 years ago in 2024. And he had, in his 37 reps, limited as they were, he was the highest graded run blocker on the football team. And when you watch him in the run game, he was almost exclusively used to that end. And boy, he put some bodies on the ground and smoked some dudes. They snuck him a carry here and there, but that's not what he's made to do. He is made to knock you on your canister by going through a gap, leading another back through and moving bodies for you. That's what he's made to do. But he does have a skill set to him. Much like Owen, that's the sneaky part of the oh, by the way dimension of his game. That's what you said about Owen. And oh, by the way, he was a 1,000-yard rusher at a small college before he transferred in here. And you saw that showcase at different times through Owen's career. I'm not saying this is Owen Schmitt. They'll never make another Owen Schmitt. But this is a guy with some skills. At Canyon Del Oro High School, he actually led the state of Arizona in rushing as a senior in 2023, ran for over 2,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, helped them win a state championship. He was a big part of what they did on both sides of the football. And once again, how many times do we have this discussion about leverage? Caden Luke is a former 215-pound wrestler in the state of Arizona, and he was the best in that weight class in the state of Arizona. Football is a game of leverage, whether you're talking about Zach Frazier, whether you're talking about defensive coordinators who can take the air out of it, or whether you're talking about an O-line coach like Rick Trickett. It's all about, however slightly, you can out-leverage who you're lined up against. And when you can do that, you can win a lot of football games. And it helps you make the little plays that the average fan in the stands might not even notice. That's what Caden Luke is all about. His game is a game of leverage, but it's also a game of physicality. And I think he's going to fit right in. Obviously, when he put his social media post out, he's standing there in jeans and a cowboy hat, and he mentions Owen, the beer truck. So what else could you ask for? He knows what he's getting himself into. But there are high expectations when you go mention an Owen Schmitt and you're about to play fullback at West Virginia. So, dude, you better bring your bucket because you got to tote it.
Absolutely. I can't wait already for our preseason predictions or over-unders, whatever we do every year, where I think we've got to include carries for Caden Luke, number one, but also because you have more capable linemen, or maybe I shouldn't say capable, you get what I'm getting at here, an improved offensive line, and you have Caden Luke, how many snaps are we going to see the heavy package this year? Because I think Rich probably would have liked to have tapped into it a little bit more. Does that return? Is there more things added onto it now because you have a fullback? Man, I can't wait to see that. But Any other guys you want to hit on?
I think that's it right now. I mean, we'll double back and probably talk about some of these guys again. And then as the new ones start, leaking in, which, as you said, anytime between now and August, that may happen, right? In this new reality that we find ourselves. But I think we've addressed a lot of needs. I'm excited about the physicality, the length at a lot of these positions. And we got to get the beer truck on here to break this kid down. That's what everybody wants to hear. There's only so much you and I can say about a fullback, right?
Yeah.
But we're kind of out of our element and out of our lane. So that's what we need. But I'm just excited that we have a fullback on the roster.
Seriously.
A fullback first, not a tight end / fullback. He'll be both, obviously, on some level. I would imagine that's probably what they'll ask of him, much like Owen, as he was a senior. But as you give Rich these different tools, we talked about they've repopulated the tight end room with different skill sets and different body types. As you talk about the offensive line, which in the next episode, we're going to get into some of that as well. But the tools are going to be there to get closer to what he believes is his style of football and what he wants to do to be most effective. And I just think it's terribly exciting, and we're not done yet.
Oh, yeah. It's spring ball can't get here soon enough. Well, and kind of in a way, blinking an eye, it's going to be here. And we're going to get our first taste of this new Mountaineer roster for what would be the second straight year. So we'll see how it all turns out. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of ITG. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel here at In the Gun Podcast, and as always, be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WV football podcast. Take care, everybody. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.